Hello, Black Blockchain Summit. This is Deidre McIntyre, and I'm here with another fantastic panel. We're going to discuss the topic of can blockchain save Hollywood, its studios, and its streaming. Now, it's a pretty loaded topic, but we're fortunate to have with us a startup founder and executive from the Hollywood space, filmmaker Candy Nicole, as well as Ryan Cooper, who is, a musician in his own right and has some interest in, you know, the NFT space and streaming and how that connects to, potential lucrative opportunities for musicians in the film industry. And then we're also going to have a general conversation of the current state of Hollywood. And is this that turning point that really sets an opportunity for those of us with a little bit more technical knowledge to improve the system for all those involved. So without further ado, I would like our guests to introduce themselves and give their background. We're going to start with Candy Nicole.
Let's just jump right in there then.
That's right. That's right. And
well, good morning, beautiful people. It's morning where I am here in Southern California. My name is Candy Nicole. I am a graduate of Howard University. I graduated with my degree in film and economics. I'm a native of Southern California. And ironically, when I arrived at Howard, I very much was trying to, I majored in film, but I very much was trying to get away from my roots and make it seem as though, I got here, on my own, pulled up by my own bootstraps, but nobody does. And so I had already arrived at Howard with a lot of experience, a lot more experience in entertainment than I even realized until later in life when it became very useful. And now we're at a very unique time and place in the entire industry, and I'm really excited about the conversation we're about to have.
And Ryan Cooper.
My name is Ryan Cooper. Pleasure to meet everyone again. And I am the founder of DeVille Crypto Solutions. It's a bootstrapped blockchain consulting firm, as well as a cryptocurrency education platform. I'm a seasoned musician, piano for about 35 years now, guitar about maybe 20 years. I run my own business doing music production. And I've been heavily involved in the cryptocurrency and NFT space for the last 8 years. I'm a certified blockchain expert via the Blockchain Council, and I participate in podcasts, conferences, and organizations globally. I'm an active member of the Blockchain Association, as well as a fellowship awardee from the Global Digital Currency Association. So this is just a little bit of my background, and I'm ready to participate in today's panel with everyone.
Fantastic. Let's hop into it. They say when there's blood in the streets, there's also opportunity for other people to make things better. And we've definitely seen this summer in terms of Hollywood with the writer's strike and then the SAG after strike, that people are disheartened, broke, angry, upset. They were, for me, not being in, being actually ancillary. Do I have friends who are filmmakers? Yes. Have I actually been on set and produced, a live action trailer? Yes, but not really knowing the intricacies of how really bad it was for actors and writers in space, because my angle is really coming from, person who's more journalism set, not screenwriting. And I think it was a real shock and an eye opener when especially the writers and actors started making videos and explaining, this kind of, what seems like a low barrier to health insurance, not being a low barrier at all, that the wheels keep spinning. So Candy, I'd like to, since you're from the Southern California area, to give your take on the current climate. How do we get to this point? And, are there any silver linings just beyond technology that you see?
I love the question. So this has actually been a really long time coming. I try to come from a general perspective, but really just from my own personal and then professional experience, and then even being a graduate of Howard. my perspective is a little different because I've always seen myself as a voice for Black people in a space that was very much not wanting to hear what I had to say. And at the same time, I've had multiple Black producers, big names in the industry who are very well established, literally tell me that if I turn my characters white, I could get my projects funded. And that's what a lot of writers do. And so from a social perspective, a racial perspective, the fact that I'm a female, so throw sex into the mix. I was having an extremely hard time as a writer. And everyone just saw me as a pretty face that, oh, you should just go on camera, you should just act. But if you don't create your own roles and you can't create depth for your characters and you can't create the world that they inhabit, then you do have to just take what's being given to you. And so what we're seeing is a very long struggle come to light. Actors are the type of people who are required to create an image in order to succeed in what they do. And writers have to build worlds. And so because so much of our work is rooted in imagination, it's rooted in creativity, it's ripe for exploitation. And that is unfortunately more the rule than it is the exception. And so now we're seeing the WGA and SAG reach a point of no return. They can no longer take what's being kind of shoveled down the pipeline because we can't afford to exist. The biggest problem that actors have, that writers have, is that their careers cannot sustain their day-to-day living, meaning they cannot afford rent, they cannot afford healthcare. And you're seeing that happen across multiple industries, not just entertainment, but because entertainment in general has this kind of allure to it where everyone thinks they're going to get rich and famous, whereas the majority of us are just trying to do our work and make a living, just a regular living. I just want to be, I just want to be able to exist and eat off of my art, off of my work, and to be told no so much because I have to make so many changes to, the voice and the representation that I bring to the table. I mean, from the colorism, the racism, the sexism, all the isms, and then throw in the financial issues, and then throw in the fact that technology has shifted so extreme in the past, you could say decade, you could say more than that. From just a technology standpoint, a studio, for example, WB, their cameras in their studio are worth, they probably spent $800,000 per camera. But the camera on my phone that I'm using right now to be on Zoom has a higher quality of pixels and a better, it's literally like in my pocket most of the time or in my purse. And I spent nothing on it. It's an Obama phone. So here we are. I'm just being honest. So here we are in 2023 where I have a free phone that was given to me by the government that has a better camera on it than an $800,000 camera in the studio. And that used to be the barrier to entry in entertainment, where it was like, okay, I can't afford the equipment. I can't make a film because the cost of the technology itself is prohibitive, where that's no longer the case. However, how do you actually eat and survive and get people to view these films and distribute the films? That's where I can see technology coming in and helping a producer like myself get directly to the audience without the studios intervening, which is very much what SAG is now promoting. I'm not hearing directly from WGA as much, but SAG, their approach to the situation is, okay, so since AMTMP I forgot what it stands for, American Movie Motion Picture Television Productions of America, something like that. They're the organization that represents the studios, all the major studios. And so what SAG is saying is we are not going to do business with the major studios, but we're going to start offering interim agreements to independent producers, truly independent producers, and try to cut the big guys out. But again, we have no money. So that's where crypto comes in as a solution. But again, a currency is only worth what people can exchange it for. So sure, I could be a billionaire in, some cryptocurrency, but what can I buy with it? And so we have to actually build the marketplace. We have to build, the whole world around the industry has to be built. And that's where my company has been very serious about taking the industry in that direction for a long time. And that's why I've been involved in these talks. That's why this panel is so important to me, because it helps me go back into the work that I do renewed, recharged, and reinvigorated to continue and keep pushing.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on the current state of Hollywood? And then we can actually move into, because Candy was moving us there anyway. She was directing us directly into, what can we do to remediate? So two questions in one: the current state to remediate, and then we're going to come back to Candy about her expertise in economics.
Right. So I was reading an article this morning about this topic, and I think one solution that the smaller studios could do is maybe get an operating license or like a node license. I'm reading something about Gala is a token that's doing a lot of different things in the entertainment industry, and they have a smaller, I guess, smaller subdivision called Gala Films, and they're actually offering node licenses to independent Web3 studios that want to participate. And with that node license, it allows you to participate in the bigger studios ecosystem. I just was learning about this today, but that's one possible solution, is we could use these nodes and licensing out to more so facilitate it. And then another thing you mentioned is the marketplace. That's really important, but that the different marketplaces are compatible, because you'll have, one different blockchain cryptocurrency. You don't want to have to worry about bridging between different blockchain networks and making it really complicated for someone that's new to Web3. So you want to make sure it's a really user-friendly marketplace where we can, share these ideas and do fundraising campaigns and things. It's all visible on the blockchain. And I think that's a good way to start this. We just come together and find the best ways and come to a standard so that everyone's not trying to build their own solution, but we at least agree that we're all going to have this similar platform and these similar nodes or et cetera, and to use this technology. So
Yeah, was another venture. They've been around for a while. I'm not sure if they're revamping or not. It was called Flixo. I don't know if you've heard of Flixo. The founders were from Spain, and even before these strikes, they had existed in a way that they were supposed to be the platform of for distribution for independent filmmakers. They've kind of closed up. I kind of visited the panel, like their website before this panel, and I was like, oh, everything has changed. Maybe they sold ownership. It's not like it really. Originally, they had their site kind of really looking like Netflix. You could see all these different videos, and most of the stuff was in Spanish. But you could watch independent things, and I see it's like closed out. That some people lose their direction. With changes in funding and changes of direction. So now it's like a marketing looking site. You can't see behind the wall. But Candy, tell me if there are anything in terms of technology that you see that you think would be beneficial if it were implemented.
If I told you, I'd have to kill you. No.
Famous last words, but
no, I do. I actually was literally thinking about all the NDAs I've signed and trying to be very careful in my wording, because the good news is that there are people like myself in Hollywood who saw this problem years ago, especially as Black entertainers, understanding that given the history of Hollywood and the way that we've been treated historically, we had to have our own in order to be able to break free and tell stories the way that we would like to tell them. There was no existing roadmap, and so we had to build it. So yes, there are technological solutions that I know about that are very promising. And I've seen in the trenches giants, you know, very famous, very powerful, very wealthy people quite literally do everything they can to stop the technology because they could see the shifts changing. They could see power dynamics becoming what they are right now. They could see themselves losing influence and losing the ability to direct consumer choices, as is currently what happens. You know, you hire a celebrity to do some commercial and you get to make, you know, millions of dollars selling your product. That was kind of the advertising model before. And so now we're in this place where celebrities, people who we thought were untouchable, people who we thought were had this allure about them because they were mysterious and, you know, how do they really live their lives? These people are just regular people now out on the street holding signs. And so much of the magic and the allure and the mystery of Hollywood has been taken away because now people can see that acting is just a job, just like any other job. And maybe not even as glamorous as it was previously marketed to be. And a big draw for Southern California is the entertainment industry. We have people coming here year after year after year, hoping to be, you know, the one that strikes it rich and famous and gets discovered. And now their face is all over billboards, which of course does happen, which is what keeps people motivated and wanting to come here for that reason. But if we lose that, and it's already like slipping through our fingers. I mean, it's such a huge dynamic shift that is taking place in terms of who has the power over influencing people's perceptions of who they are, where they are in time and space, and how that relates to other people in society, which is really what Hollywood was about, controlling how people see themselves in the world. And that's kind of broken now. I don't think it's ever going to go back to the way it was before. And we're excited. I'm excited because it's interesting that even on social media, especially on Black Twitter, there was this conversation, I'd say 5 years ago, 7 years ago, about tear it all down and rebuild from scratch. And we need to start all over and we need new institutions and we need new systems. Well, now we have that opportunity because the major institutions are failing us in a very public, very like undeniable way. And are we ready to, you know, take charge and be the ones that are making those decisions going forward? I know that I am, but not everyone is ready for a new system to be built because it does change who is in control of it. And for me, I think that's a positive thing, but there's going to be winners and losers in this situation. And I don't know, I'm really excited, but I'm also scared to death. It's a very, I'm throwing my hat in the ring, but I have no idea what the outcome is going to be.
I mean, there's opportunity for new business models, but sometimes what's new is not really new. It just hasn't been applied to your industry.
Agreed.
You know, I think that Brian is very familiar with DAOs, and you know, there seems to be this lost correlation that a DAO is really just a sort of a cooperative, and the United States doesn't really promote its cooperative businesses that much. I think the biggest brand in cooperatives may be like Sunkist, and everyone's had a Sunkist soda at some point, especially this summer, getting all those new fruit flavors, but they don't really realize that huh?
Is REI considered a cooperative?
I don't even know what REI is.
It's like
electronics or?
No, they're like outdoor sports kind of
I
retail.
think they are. I know what you're talking about. They're like campers and things.
Yeah. I think they're a cooperative. But no, that's an excellent point because when I was looking for business models and just doing my research, I realized that the one business model that has outlasted Blockbuster, you know, when Netflix came in and kind of killed that whole that whole store chain, that whole nostalgia of being in the 90s and going to Blockbuster on a Friday. That's over now, right? But Chuck E. Cheese is still around, and they're a very successful entertainment company, and they have their own currency. When you go into the Chuck E. Cheese system, your dollars are no good here. You have to get coins
The
with the mouse face
tokens.
on it. Yeah, you have to get their tokens, and those tokens only have value within the Chuck E. Cheese system. You can't spend those tokens at the grocery store, but you can get a hell of a ton of toys with them when you're about to leave that system, and cash in all your tickets at the end of it and leave. And it's like the best day ever for mom, for dad, for the kids. We're all having a great time. And so seeing that cryptocurrency has the potential for being the Chuck E. Cheese money in a system, that was attractive to me, because not only can you use it as a method of distribution for film, but it's also a world in which you can incorporate gaming and other forms of entertainment that engage people within a space, and allow them to have a marketplace and a currency, and it's all around a certain type of entertainment. And so I'm seeing that idea really take hold, and it's a very exciting time because as Ryan spoke to, there are a lot of individual companies kind of coming up with their own way of competing in that space, and I'm just kind of like over watching to see who's going to win this competition, like who has the best Chuck E. Cheese coin. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting dynamic to see that that
Ryan,
model coming
I
out.
want I told you the time was going to fly by. 25 minutes seems like it's a long time, but it's not. Ryan, I want you to speak to, do you see any avenues for, people in the music industry to have something available, some type of NFT thing available that independent filmmakers can access? Because I need a score for XYZ or something. Is there anything that you've come across, or any ideas you have on that? Take about a minute and a half.
Okay, yeah. So I'm pretty active nowadays on Twitter Spaces. So anyone watching this, I would get into Twitter Spaces, Black Twitter, but just more so the music NFT Twitter scene. We're all doing amazing things there. There's a lot of amazing projects coming out. That's the starting point. Get active on Clubhouse, get active on Twitter Spaces. It's a ton of people doing so many different things right now with music NFTs. A good friend of mine just did a song with Snoop Dogg. They're doing things in the metaverse. So I know we didn't really talk a lot about the metaverse, but a lot of funding fell out of the metaverse because whatever, Disney was fully into it, and then they backed completely out of it. But what's happening is a good friend of mine is working with Snoop Dogg, and they're doing weekly events in Decentraland, which is one of the major metaverses. So the metaverse is still here. We just got to find a way to pull that back into some of the new music NFT streaming platforms that have just dropped recently. Sound.xyz is one I just recently got signed on, but there's a ton of new music NFT platforms coming out. We need to just kind of put a compilation of all the resources together so we can all have it in a central location, so we all know what to pull from, where to grab it. But yes, it's tons of information.
Yeah, the future theater. I mean, could you imagine you're at home, or you just want to bond with someone? I have a friend of mine that lives in Dubai, and aside from Facebook, I don't really have any time to interact with her. But if we know we're movie, and let's go see Candy Nicole's latest production, and we just put on our headsets, or we just go in the zone, and we've got the world that Candy created, the theater that she wants to showcase her work that she's produced, and be able to talk together and see that film together, and then be able to chit chat and cat and stuff like that. I think there's a potential for ticket sales that way, that people want to interact with each other that can't. And that ticket is going to be an NFT, and you could still stream that thing, but you can't see it in the theater. You can't say that's another revenue stream potentiality of the industry. So again, the time went very, very quickly. I just want to take, even though we're about time to wrap, I want Candy, I think you have something coming up, or you're working on a conference. Is there anything that you want to share with that? And that's probably take about 30 seconds for that.
Okay, I am currently working on a film festival taking place in Las Vegas on September 13th. And it is all about integrating AI technology, basically everything that we're fighting for with the strikes. It is about figuring out how to integrate these technologies into the entertainment industry from a grassroots level. Excuse my cat, she likes attention. So yes, so that takes place in Las Vegas. It is the Conceptualize AI Film Festival, and I'm excited
All right.
about that.
It'll be past our pre-record, but people hopefully could chat you up on the Hoover app for the conference and find out how that went and how they can help post your conference. The cat is like, feature me. Ryan Cooper and Candy Nicole, thank you so much for this very brief time. This is our first, but definitely not our last Hollywood panel. And hopefully those of you who come to the conference, I'll see you in DC. Thank you.